Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Wesley, and I am here on behalf of the Columbus Karma Take-Some Choling Tibetan Buddhist Meditation Center in Columbus, Ohio. I'd like to welcome you to our very first Sadhana Saturday workshop. Our goal in this experimental set of workshops is to see if introducing people to our sadhanas in a very simple way helps them to understand and participate in our sadhana practice. So that's our goal. But of course, I'm looking forward to learning from you as we go through the material today. For the last 40 plus years, Columbus KTC has been in Columbus, Ohio, and offered all types of meditation: quiet sitting meditation, compassion meditation, and mantra meditation. And of our three to five regular sadhana practices, Green Tara is one of the most intriguing. And it's also a bit challenging because typically it is chanted rapidly. And part of the reason for this is that Tara is called the swift one without fear. Her main activity is helping us cope with our own fears. There are 8 fears in one list. There's 16 fears in another list, but today we don't have a lot of time to talk about all of the fears that Tara helps us with. But what we can do today is talk about who she is, how to approach her, and how to make offerings to her, which is really the function of this particularly special practice. The practice that we're going to be discussing today is it has a long and fancy name. It is called the Mandala Ritual, or shall we say Mandala, the Mandala Ritual, the essence of the two accumulations, from the profound drop of Tara, a thought treasure. That's a lot to unpack. So let's start with the title. The Mandala Ritual. Mandala, it means center and surrounding, and it refers to lots of different things. It can refer to a pure realm, a Buddha realm, in which a Buddha or enlightened being is depicted in the center of the mandala. And then on the outskirts, the surrounding mandala, are other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and other protectors, worldly ones, and so on. So that's one type of mandala, the mandala of practice, in which a Buddha sits in the center and all of his or her surrounding accompaniment are on the outside. But there's a deeper meaning to mandala. And that mandala is about ourselves. I'm sorry, I neglected to talk about the second kind of mandala, the mandala of the world that we offer. We can offer the entire world to the enlightened ones as a way of accumulating merit, purifying negativities, and developing our own Buddha nature. And so the words, the Mandala Ritual, refer in some way to both of these. We supplicate the mandala of the awakened being, Tara, but we also repeatedly offer the mandala of the ideal world to her over and over and over again. If I remember correctly, the mandala is offered at least 3 times, possibly 4. And so this is the stated purpose of this sadhana or practice, is to offering the mandala of our own body, speech, and mind, the mandala of the universe to Tara as an enlightened being, requesting her activity in our lives and her blessing. So that's the meaning of the first part of the name. The second part of the name is the essence of the two accumulations. The two accumulations are spoken of in Buddhism as the counteraction to the 2 kinds of afflictions. The affliction of basic ignorance. All of us have Buddha nature, but we don't know that we have Buddha nature, and therefore we are ignorant of our Buddha nature. And because we're ignorant of our Buddha nature, we instead look to the world to satisfy all of our wishes and desires. And as you may have experienced as human beings in this world, when we try to control our worlds and make everything perfect for ourselves, we often hurt ourselves and hurt others. And so once we understand that there is a higher, better way to be, which is to be in harmony with our own inner Buddha nature, our own capacity to wake up and to be an enlightened being ourselves. Because you have to remember, that's what the Buddha said about all beings, is that we all have a mind that can know itself and become enlightened. And so basic ignorance is the first of the two afflictions. The second is mental afflictions, all of the emotions that come about because we live in a dualistic world. Bokhar Rinpoche, in his book, The Profound Wisdom of the Heart Sutra, said that once basic ignorance is active in our life, our world is divided in two: the me and everything else, which is called not me. And so then there's conflict and drama as the me and the not me have a little bit of a problem. So what does the name of this sadhana mean? The essence of the two accumulations. What does that mean? Merit and wisdom help us to overcome the two types of affliction. Merit or virtue, developing a virtuous mind, helps us to counteract our own negativity. It actually gives us something to do instead of being confused. And by making offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, that's a type of accumulation of merit or virtue. Reciting mantras is another kind of the accumulation of merit and virtue. Making aspirations is another type of accumulating merit and virtue. So merit and virtue help us to clear our minds and to make the wisdom that is inherent in our minds, our Buddha nature, come forth. So this ritual, the Mandala Ritual, is the essence of the two accumulations. In other words, it's an extremely short practice, like flower essence is an extremely concentrated medicine. So the essence of the two accumulations, this sadhana contains an understanding of the accumulation of virtue and an understanding of the accumulation of wisdom, and that counteract our ignorance and our mental afflictions. And the final part, the final two parts of the title, the profound drop of Tara, is the name of a cycle of teachings that was created by Chogyur Dechen Lingpa, one of the great treasure revealers of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which helps us to explain the last section of the title, which is a thought treasure. It was said that when Guru Rinpoche, or Padmasambhava, the great saint who helped to establish Buddhism in Tibet, when he left Tibet to teach other beings elsewhere, it was said that he left behind teachings. He would secret them away in crevices or in caves, or sink them into lakes, or put them into trees. But he also meditated deeply and inspired other teachers with what were called thought treasures, which would often come to them in visions of the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, and that they would then write down quickly. And this is one such treasure. Chogyur Dechen Lingpa was meditating. He had the inspiration and saw the entire sadhana and wrote it all down. And so that's a little explanation as to what this particular practice is and what it means. So I'm wondering, I'd like to stop here for a minute and see if anybody has questions about this first part. What do you think? What's your knowledge of texts like this? Are you familiar with it? Is there more you'd like to learn about it? I think if people would like to raise hand or. Okay, just thought I'd check. Oh, yes, go ahead, please ask.
Well, maybe this will come up later, but so you said one of the mandalas is the mandala of ourself.
Yes.
So are we in the center?
Yes, I'm glad you asked about that. I'm really glad you asked about that. You've seen the mandala drawings, right? The circular ones. And in the center, there's always a Buddha, and around them are all of their retinue. Well, when we were in 3-year retreat with Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, he gave us this explanation. He said that we all have our own relative mandala in that we are in the center of. And that all of our loved ones and all of our co-workers and everyone who is in this world with us, they are our surrounding, center and surrounding. And that this world we live in, our home, our workplace, our environment is all our part of our mandala. And right now, that mandala, shall we say, is not an enlightened mandala. Right now, it's a worldly mandala that has some confusion in it, some delusion in it, some pain, suffering, and so on. But this is the why of sadhana practice. When we practice a sadhana, and the word sadhana does mean practice or accomplishment. When we do a practice for the purpose of that practice and for the time of that practice, we imagine that we are in the presence of an enlightened being. We imagine that Tara is with us. And then after we imagine that she's with us, we pray to her, make offerings to her, and then we imagine that she blesses us and we become Tara. We start visualizing ourselves as Tara fairly early in the practice, but we don't really become Tara until right before the recitation of the mantra. But in that way, we act as if, what my friends in psychology like to say, we act as if we already have these enlightened qualities perfected within us. The answer is we're just pretending for right now, but it's a powerful practice in which we can relate to our Buddha nature symbolically through the iconography of the images. And we can place ourselves in the center of an awakened mandala, at least for just a few minutes through the practice. And then when we, in the practice, request for Tara to bless us, she does. When we request her to be present so we can make offerings to her, she does. And then over time, she stays with us and remains with us. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said that he had a struggle when he came to the United States and started teaching Dharma here, because he said many Westerners did not believe in the existence of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They thought of them as like Jungian archetypes or just themes that were embodied, themes of Buddhist philosophy that were embodied. But he says, I'm here to tell you they absolutely do exist. And they are absolutely here to help us. And if in our everyday life, we have allies, mentors, friends, people who reach out to and help us. And the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are no exception. So what Rinpoche told us in retreat was that if we practice this type of practice where we are the center of the mandala and we are enacting the benefit of beings through visualizing that light rays go out and benefit beings, and that the type of visualizations a person would do in a sadhana like this, that doing a sadhana like this would gradually get us used to the idea of being awakened bodhisattvas and allow us to experience ourselves in a different way. And it would transform our everyday confused mandala into an awakened one. So that's the theory. Yeah. Any other questions? I just realized that I need to take off this screen share in order to see you. But if you have another question, I have time for one more, if there's one more out there. Yes, please. I see Elizabeth asking a question. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for taking the question. I'm wondering about, perhaps you'll get to this later, if there's an audio file, because I'm sort of intimidated by all the syllables.
Yeah, I know.
In the sadhana.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
exactly.
And if it's fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hear that. Yes. What's going to happen is I'm going to check with my personal sources, meaning I'm going to call Lama Karma Drodol, who's a great chanter, and see if he has an audio file that's a little slower. And if he doesn't, then we'll just I've made one in the past or someone else has made one in the past, and I will send a link to it to everyone who's registered for the class. But thank you for asking about that. Okay. Well, I wanted to let you know that I'm basing my remarks today on two sources: the oral teaching, three sources: the oral teachings of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, this incredible book, Tara, the Feminine Divine, by Bokhar Rinpoche, fabulous book, and this book, even though it's about white Tara, don't tell anybody. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche gives a very good explanation in this book called The Wish Fulfilling Wheel. He gives a very good introduction to who Tara is, what her activities are, and so forth. Also, this will help because we're going to be teaching white Tara next month. So just FYI. Okay. So iconography. Let's find out who Tara is. When Bokhar Rinpoche introduces the concept of Tara in his book, Tara, the Feminine Divine, he said there's a relative Tara and an ultimate Tara. And the relative Tara has a life story and an awakening story. But the ultimate Tara is wisdom itself, is enlightened wisdom itself. And so it is wisdom manifest in the form that you see here. This form of green Tara is the one that is most commonly known. She is seen as a young woman, and that she is wearing silks and jewels that are symbolic of the qualities of Buddhahood. And if we look, I think my pointer will work here. Oh yeah, is my pointer working? You cannot, yeah, okay, good. If we look at this image, let's see if we can make it a little bigger. There we go. She has a crown that has 5 jewels on it, and the 5 jewels stand for the 5 Buddha wisdoms. Remember, I said that we have basic ignorance, and that because of ignorance, we do negative karma, and the negative karma can come to fruition as suffering. But there's also positive karma. And the 5 jeweled crown talks about the transformation of 5 types of negative action. And that when we achieve Buddhahood, all of our negative actions are purified and become 5 types of wisdom. And again, because we are short on time, I won't be able to dig deep into what the 5 kinds of wisdom are, but we can talk about that in subsequent classes. We might have a deep dive class as well as this overview in the future. Her hair is beautiful, shiny, and black. And half of it is in a top knot on her head, and the other part flows across her shoulders. Khenpo Rinpoche said that the symbolism of this is that enlightenment is unitary, but its manifestations are many. And so the top knot is the unitariness of enlightenment, and the hair falling on the shoulders is the manifestations, the many manifestations of awakening. She is wearing 3 types of necklaces: short, medium, long. She also wears bracelets, armlets, anklets, and there's a golden girdle. She's wearing like a belt with tinkling bells hanging from it. She also is wearing an upper garment, which here is being depicted by this activity scarf, and a lower garment and leggings. And she is adorned with flowers. You see their flowers are all around. Her right hand is open in what's called the mudra or gesture of giving or generosity at her knee. Her left hand is holding the stem of a lotus flower. The gesture of generosity is that she is giving and loving to all beings, and that her nature is compassion and giving. And the lotus flower is symbolic of the Bodhisattva, who lives in the world but is not stained by the world, just as a lotus is rooted in mud but grows above it. There's a couple more things to note about her. She's sitting on a moon disk, a disk of the moon, and she actually has a moon as her backrest, even though it is depicted differently here. And she's sitting on a lotus flower. So there's a lotus flower, a moon disk, and then Tara is sitting upon that. That's her cushion. Khenpo Rinpoche, in his book on Chenrezig, describes the lotus flower as being symbolic of love, that is the wish for others to be happy. If you think about it, the wish for others to be happy comes about because of empathy and understanding that other people are just like us. And that's where our wish for their happiness arises from, empathy and seeing that they're like us. And then compassion is born from that, because when we want others to be happy, we also want them to be free from suffering. So the Buddhist definition of love is the wish for others to be happy, and the Buddhist definition of compassion is the wish for them to be free of suffering. And if you are familiar with the prayer called the Prayer of the Four Immeasurables, the prayer of the four immeasurables, may all beings be happy and have the causes of happiness. The causes of happiness, of course, are virtuous actions. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering, which are unvirtuous actions. May they have that great happiness, which is freedom from suffering, meaning may they attain the highest happiness, which is enlightenment. The last verse is, may they dwell in great equanimity, free of attachment and aversion, which speaks of both the attitude of the Bodhisattva, favoring all instead of favoring one or the other. We think of the Bodhisattva as being compassionate to all, like the sun shines on all beings equally. Now, I have one more bit of iconography to explain, and then I'll open for questions. Do you see what is happening with Tara's right foot? Most of you who are used to seeing pictures of Buddhist bodhisattvas and Buddhas and bodhisattvas know that they are often depicted as sitting in what in yoga is called the lotus posture, left leg on top of right thigh, right foot on top of left thigh, that they're sitting in this pose. But Tara is not depicted as sitting like this. And there's a reason. Remember, I told you that her epithet was the swift one without fear. One of the lamas who gave a teaching on Tara said, look, she's ready to get up. She's not just sitting there. She's going to be active for the benefit of beings. She looks like she's about ready to get up and do something. All of us who are, I have to confess, I'm a compulsive doer. In the, I'm not even going to go into the Mary and Martha story from the Bible, but anyway, you get the idea. I'm a runner and a doer. I got a kick out of that explanation because it's like, yep, she's ready to get up because she sees something that needs to be done. And so this is a way of talking about Tara's awakening. Her compassion is not just passive compassion that radiates like the sun. It also is getting up to do something. This is why I enjoy talking about Tara, because she's a complex character. In any case, does anyone have questions? And I apologize, but I realize now I won't be able to recognize you by raise hand gesture. But if anybody has a question, I think there is the possibility of unmuting. And if two unmute at once, I'll be able to hopefully to do a little bit of traffic. Anybody have question? You can also write it in. Yes.
I just wondered, that position of green Tara reminds me a little bit of Vajrasattva. Is there any of that element that she's willing to share her qualities with us and be with us and help purify us?
This is a wonderful thought. I do not know the answer to that question, but it is a very beautiful thought. Thank you for sharing that thought, because I honestly do not know if I have not heard that explanation, but that doesn't mean it isn't a good thought. I do love the idea, though, that she is like a mother to us and wants to do whatever's necessary to help. But I've read nothing that explains that. But that doesn't doesn't preclude other explanations. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's going to be sometimes I will say I don't know. And so other things that people might want to know about the image of Tara. Okay.
Lama Kathy, could you tell us what the green represents?
The green is generally the color of activity. And so I think that, to me, that this is what it is. And I think that Khenpo Rinpoche in his discussion of the wish-fulfilling wheel talks a little bit about the idea that she is like the Tara of activity, and green is generally the color associated with activity, as opposed to white, which is generally associated with pacification. There are something called the 4 activities, and they all have different colors associated with them. So this would be the color of activity, which would fit, wouldn't it? Because she's getting ready to get up and help sentient beings, right?
Lama Kathy, I know we don't have time to cover this today, but is there just a quick, brief explanation of how green Tara fits in with the other 21 Taras? I know there's more Taras than green Tara.
Yeah.
And what makes green Tara unique? And I know she's such a central practice for us.
I know it's really true. I'm glad you mentioned that, because in Karma Kagyu monasteries, apparently it is a tradition to do green Tara every morning as a way of clearing away obstacles for the day and kind of getting us off to a good start. The way I understand it is that the green Tara is central, and that the other 20 Taras are part of her retinue. So remember the center and surrounding, right? That one of the ways that they can be thought of when you think of the 21 Taras is that they are all expressions of different aspects of Tara's being. But green Tara is the central one. And so in a way you could think of it, I'm thinking that the example of the sun and its rays would be a good example, but I'll check with Lama Karma and make sure I'm not making a mistake with that analogy. But she's like, green Tara is like the sun, and all of the other emanations are like the rays of the sun. So I would kind of look at it that way, as a way of getting into the idea. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's like she's, what's the right word? She is the summation of all of them. When we talk about the 21 praises of Tara, we can talk a little bit about it at that time. But thanks again. I appreciate you asking about this. I wish I had a better way of explaining quickly, but thank you. Okay. Looking, let's see, just to see if there's anybody else. Okay. So this is a little bit about the iconography of Tara. And I'm glad that we had a chance to talk a little bit about her from that point of view. I'm going to leave her picture up for a second. I'm going to read a short paragraph to you from Tara the Feminine Divine. Again, there is a relative Tara as well as an ultimate Tara. The ultimate Tara is basically what he says is it is said that Tara is the mother of all Buddhas, which also refers to her essence, the nature of mind, the perfection of knowledge, and the understanding of emptiness, in fact, are all equivalent terms. All of the past Buddhas have attained Buddhahood by realizing the empty and clear nature of mind. It is the same for present Buddhas, and it will be the same for future Buddhas. Thus, Tara, the Tara that is ultimate, the Tara that is beyond time, space, and concept, is the perfection of wisdom itself. The word Prajnaparamita might come to mind because she's an embodiment of this perfection of wisdom. And so wisdom is the mother of all Buddhas. Wisdom itself, that's what all Buddhas come to realize is their own inner wisdom. And therefore, Tara, who symbolizes that inner wisdom, she's the mother of all Buddhas. And so praying to her is a way of calling upon our own inner nature in a way that we can relate to, because she has a face, and we feel that she can care for us. And so it's a little bit like that. So Bokar Rinpoche says, even if it seems a little disconcerting, the existence of Tara on an ultimate level, because we're not all ready to understand emptiness and wisdom yet. The existence of Tara on an ultimate level, as we have described it, does not hinder or contradict her existence on a relative level, which is also called the level of relative truth. So according to the stories that were told about Tara, and mainly the work of the great Tibetan master, Tara Natha, get it? Her name is part of his name, Tara Natha, a 16th century Lama who had great realization. Tara actually was an ordinary woman before becoming the Bodhisattva that she became. And so I'll read you briefly her story. Her story began incalculable ages ago in a world called multicolored light, where the Buddha drum sound. I love it. I love that the Buddhas have these, shall we say, colorful names. Buddha, sound of the drum, dwelled. One of the king's daughters at this time, whose name was Wisdom Moon, possessed great faith and devotion to the Buddha. For many years, she made immense offerings to the Buddha and his entourage of monastics. One day, she decided to take the Bodhisattva vow in the presence of the Buddha drum sound, that is, to promise to attain awakening to benefit beings in infinite ways. The monks rejoiced greatly at her decision, and considering that she would accumulate great merit by this activity, advised her to pray in order to obtain, in a future life, the body of a man. This would allow her to benefit beings in the Dharma better, they said, than in a female existence. And you can kind of tell where this story is going to go. Wisdom Moon, distressed by their narrow-mindedness, answered them from the point of view of the ultimate nature of things. She said, "Here, no man, no woman, no I, no individual, no categories. Man or woman are only names created by confusion of perverse minds in this world." So she kind of laid it out for him. She may not have been an enlightened being yet, but she was starting to speak some truth. She added that there were many who followed in the path of a man's body, but few took the path in a woman's body. As for myself, she said, as long as samsara is not emptied, I will benefit beings appearing only as a woman. Such was her promise. Her practice then allowed her to realize the ultimate truth. Having become an awakened being, she has placed millions of beings on the path of awakening every day. So I just had to, there are lots of relative stories about Tara, but I wanted to tell that one because I just think that she's like the original savioress. They often call her the savioress. And she is the original woman with attitude. So there you have it, even as an aspiring bodhisattva. So how do we go from this image of a princess who became an awakened Buddha? How do we go from that to the sadhana that we recite in her honor? Well, Tara was taught, the practices of Tara were taught in the Tantras. Tantras are one of the two main forms of Buddhist literature, the other being the sutras. The sutras were given by the Buddha Shakyamuni during this era that we live in now, and are categorized by different scholars in different ways. But the sutras were spoken by the Buddha in this world at this time. The Tantras, on the other hand, were spoken by the Buddha in different times and different places, the Buddha Shakyamuni in different times and different places. And in fact, the Buddha took on different forms in order to give the teachings known as the Tantras. In one Tantra, he's the great Buddha Hevajra. In another one, he's the great Buddha Kalachakra. In another, he's the great Buddha Chakrasamvara and Vajrayogini, and so on. So in these different Tantras, the Buddha took a special form to talk about the special practices of Vajrayana. Now, what makes Vajrayana, the path of the Tantras, different from the path of the Sutras? In the path of the Sutras, we're working mainly on understanding the nature of the relative world and the confusion that we have living in this relative world. We learn about impermanence, we learn about interdependence, we learn about karma and ethics and morality, we learn about taming the mind, practicing quiet meditation, and we also learn about practicing compassion and love. So that's the main path of the sutras. The path of the Tantras actually builds on the path of the sutras. According to Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, you need to have a training in the path of the sutras. You need to have training in ethics. You need to have training in morality. You need to have training in meditation. And you need to have training in love before you can even attempt to practice any of the practices of the Tantra. And so it builds on it with special practices that allow us to transform our ordinary idea of our body, our ordinary idea of our speech, and our ordinary idea of our mind into the body, speech, and mind of an awakened being. Right now, according to the teachings of Bardo Rinpoche, when he put it this way, he said, right now we have a body and it is the cause of a lot of suffering and confusion. We get tired, we get old, all kinds of things happen. And so we relate to our body as in a confused way. But for the purposes of sadhana practice, we visualize ourselves as being completely made of light, empty inside. And in this way, we transform our confusion about the body and set aside that confusion and take on the idea that we are the appearance of appearance and emptiness, that we have the appearance of appearance and emptiness, the unity. We are the unity of appearance and emptiness. And we train in thinking like that. Second, our speech. Even though speech is intangible, if somebody says something bad to us, it's like we've been hit by a rock. And so even though speech is intangible, we treat it in a confused and dualistic way. In mantra practice, we practice the mantra, which is the unity of sound and emptiness. And by practicing in this way, we overcome the confusion and delusion about speech and experience the unity of sound and emptiness. And finally, thought. We all know that the stories we tell ourselves are powerful. We can tell ourselves we're great, we can tell ourselves we're terrible, and so on. And we believe those stories, for better or worse. But in sadhana practice, we exchange our story for the story of the awakened being who is shining and giving off love, compassion, and wisdom. And in that way, we practice the unity of awareness and emptiness. And when we practice the unity of awareness and emptiness, sound and emptiness, and form and emptiness, when we practice all three of these together, it has the power to shift our perception of who we are and what we're capable of. From being a totally confused person to being a person who, shall we say, has enlightened potential. And we rehearse what it will be like for us when we become an enlightened being. A friend of mine asked Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, hey, I like to meditate on emptiness, but all of this mantra practice leaves me cold. And he said, can't I just meditate on emptiness? And Rinpoche said, well, yes, you could, but then where's your benefit for beings? He said, when you meditate on the forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you give yourself habits that will eventually come to fruition when you are a Buddha. You create habits of benefiting beings. And he says, you don't do that when you meditate on emptiness. And so he recommended that my friend add a mantra practice to his emptiness practice, his Mahamudra practice. So there's a lot of power in this. And anyway, that's a little bit of an introduction as to what sadhana practice is and why we do it. It's a little bit of history about Tara, and a little bit about her life and why I think she's just so darn amazing. And I wanted to stop here for a second and see if anybody has questions or curiosities about this. About Tara, her story. I think her story is kind of cool. About the idea that she's the perfection of wisdom. She's actually the source of all of the other awakened female aspects of Buddhahood. Actually, it's like she is Prajnaparamita, Vajrayogini, and all of them all in one. She's the entire package, shall we say. Questions, thoughts? Okay. Well, I think the main thing that we relate to with Tara is the idea of protection. Many people look at Tara as being the swift one without fear who protects us from the greater and lesser fears in life. I love the fears. I'm not going to go through all 16 because it take up too much time, but I like some of them. The fear of raging elephants, you know, the fear of tyrant kings and that kind of thing. But we may not have raging elephants. We might have tyrant kings in this world. But anyway, there are lots of things that can make us afraid. Some people are afraid of certain types of interactions. Some people are afraid of public speaking. Some people are afraid of danger, specific dangers, and so forth and so on. And what wisdom does, how wisdom combats fear, is by knowing the basic nature of our mind, we can see that that nature is not changed by anything. The basic goodness of our mind never changes. Pema Chodron put it this way: your mind is like the sky and everything else is just the weather. It's just the weather. And if we can learn how to practice and meditate in that way, it will allow us to be freer of the things that make us afraid. When we are in relationship with something and we feel powerless in that situation, it can bring on a lot of fear. But if we know that no matter what happens in the external world, our mind is still the same, that's a comfort to us. One of the members of the Columbus KTC passed away a number of years ago from cancer. Before he died, he consulted Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. And one of the things that Rinpoche told him has stuck with me ever since. He said, look, we do get old, we do get sick, our body quits on us. But he said, I want you to know that your Buddha nature will never quit on you. Your Buddha nature will never quit on you. And so if you can be there and stay there and live there, then whatever is going on the outside, you'll be comforted in this situation. So I thought that was a pretty powerful statement. And that is part of why doing sadhana practice is so powerful for us. Because at first we think of the Buddhas as external, because we may not think of ourselves as having Buddha potential, but we see the enlightened Buddha external to us. But then through offerings and prayers and aspirations, we make a relationship with that Buddha. And then that Buddha shines light upon us, and all of our fears and mental afflictions and ignorance are washed away. And we can momentarily, through our imagination, manifest our Buddha nature briefly as the mantra is being recited. And then what do we do at the end of a mantra practice? We allow all of the aspects of the mantra, of the mandala that we have imagined, to merge with us. And then we, as the deity, merge from the top to the middle and the bottom to the middle, just like an old-fashioned cathode ray tube television, that little dot in the center, and then that disappears completely. And we rest in utter emptiness for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, like this. When the Dalai Lama spoke about mantra practice at KTD Monastery, our home monastery, in 2006, he said that if you would tell a person, meditate on the nature of your mind as emptiness and luminosity, he said they may not be able to understand that. But if you say, visualize yourself as Chenrezig or Tara, made of light and empty inside, he said they could do that. So meditation on Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in that way is a form of symbolic meditation on the nature of mind itself, which is not established. The mind is not established as a material thing. And yet it's not nothing, because it knows, it thinks, it experiences, and so on. It perceives. And so the thinking, perceiving, and knowing part of mind is called its luminosity. And the non-established, non-material part of mind is called its emptiness. It's not a material thing. It's not made of atoms or molecules. But relating to these two concepts can be mainly intellectual, and it can actually be a problem for us if we only relate to these ideas intellectually. Mantra practice allows us to feel it, to feel the confusion and fear fall away, and to manifest as the Buddha of the practice. So that's a little bit to start with. Are there any other questions about Vajrayana practice? Vajrayana, Tantrayana, and Mantrayana all are the same. They mean the same thing. Tantrayana, Mantrayana, Vajrayana, they are all the special practices that build on the ethics, morality, and love of the sutra tradition. Here's a question. So, Prajnaparamita from the Heart Sutra, I heard it was the Buddha's mother. Is it also Tara? I thought it was a different bodhisattva. She is like the embodiment, right? Okay, I'm going to see if I understand the question properly. Prajnaparamita is the name of the topic that was explained in the Heart Sutra. When Chenrezig, in the presence of the Buddha, was asked, how should a son or daughter of noble family train in the perfection of wisdom? So the words perfection of wisdom were at that moment a philosophy and an understanding about the nature of mind. But over time, Prajnaparamita was realized to be an embodiment of a particular Buddha or Bodhisattva. And that is why the perfection of wisdom, that basic awakened state, is called the mother of all Buddhas, because when we enter that awakened state, we become a Buddha. And so I remember there was a book on iconography that said the book who became a woman, or the woman who became a book. I forgot how the chapter read, but the idea was that Prajnaparamita was at first an understanding of the nature of mind and reality, but eventually she became personified as Prajnaparamita and all of the permutations of Prajnaparamita. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I set an alarm for myself. I love getting older, don't you? So all of the different embodiments of Prajnaparamita come back to this idea of the awakened state itself. So I'm sorry if that's not a great answer, But it's the idea is that when we attain enlightenment, we do so through practicing the understanding of form and emptiness, sound and emptiness, and thought and emptiness, or awareness and emptiness. That's how we come to it. And so in a way we become, it's that practice is like the mother of our awakening. I hope that's helped. Does that help at all? He's like, okay, thank you. Any other curiosities about that? Okay, well, this is our brain break. I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes, turn off my camera sound and pause the recording. And then when we come back, we're going to look at the sadhana text itself and walk through the sadhana text itself, outlining what it is and how we do it. So thank you, and I'll see you in a few. right, we have returned. It's a little bit nippy here in Central Ohio today, so I've got all my extra accoutrements on. Okay, there we go. I have a story to tell. Monastic shawls. This is not a monastic shawl. This is a white shawl for a person who's a lay person. But shawls that the monks or monastics wear, there are 2 or 3 different lengths. One is like a 7-foot length, one is a 9, and the other is a 12. And I asked Khenpo Rinpoche, I said, could I have one of those shawls? And he's very cute because he's like, oh, you're so adorable. You're not a monastic and you want a shawl. That's very sweet. But anyhow, but he gave me one, and it's 6 feet long. And I think what it is that he took a 12-footer and cut it in half. Anyway, so this is one of my souvenirs from Khenpo Rinpoche. It's really amazing. Okay, now we're good. All right, let's we'll go ahead and start the recording again, and then I'll share this screen and show you a little bit about the outline of the sadhana. So here we go. There we go. So thanks for coming back. And what I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about the Green Tara sadhana that we do. As I mentioned, it was written by one of those Tibetan lamas who lived in the late 19th century, who had 3 names. I may be spelling it wrong. Chokjur, I'm spelling it wrong. But anyway, Dechen, I'll put it in chat. I think there's only 1 G. Okay, Chojur. There we go, Chojur Dechen Lingpa. He had a relationship with Dharma that was his entire life. And he had several visionary experiences that he later turned into sadhanas. And the one that we are speaking about here, the profound drop of Tara, he found that one in the late 19th century and began to teach it. Looking at the sadhana itself, let's take just a quick look at the sadhana itself. Let's see if we can boop, boopy doop. There it is. This is the old version of the KTD sadhana. There's our title, the Mandala Ritual, the profound drop, the essence of the 2 accumulations, the profound drop. And by the way, during the break, someone asked if they could follow along with this practice in English at home while they're watching the chant, because the chant does go by a pretty fast clip. And the answer to that is absolutely, because sometimes we need to understand the meaning beforehand. And I'm hoping that giving you the structure of the sadhana will help you understand how it works. Any practice that is called a treasure practice, it will be will have a supplication to Guru Rinpoche at the beginning. So this is the 7-line prayer to Guru Rinpoche. There's a short version of the 7-line supplication and a long version. This is the long one. And by the way, just for fun, I know everybody loves trivia. See the 2 dots and the line in between them? When you see those at the end of a line, as opposed to this, which is called a shay, at the end of the line, this indicates that it's a treasure text. Just for fun, I thought I'd show that to you. And so we supplicate Guru Rinpoche and ask for his blessing, because this teaching is thought to emanate from him. Now, here's the Tara practice itself. Remember that long title. That's how you know. And yes, there are parts of it that were written, not part of the thought treasure. But it begins with the taking of refuge and the engendering of Bodhichitta. So this is how all practices in Buddhism begin. They all begin with refuge and Bodhichitta. And so in the front of me in the sky, Tara is directly perceived. So we imagine her to be in front of us right away at the beginning of the practice. And then we recite a refuge prayer saying, I pay homage to the real embodiment of the triple gem, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, Tara. Having developed Bodhichitta of aspiration, I will enter the profound path. And we recite this 3 times. And then we gather the accumulations. Remember, the word accumulation is in the title. So what you're going to see in this practice is lots and lots and lots of offerings, lots of offerings. And 2 of the ways offerings are done are through something called the 7-branch prayer. There's a prayer that has existed since the time of the Buddha called the 7 branches of offering. And I'll show you how they look right here. Look at the English here. To the noble Tara and the Bodhisattvas, I bow to you. So that's the first of the 7 branches, homage. The branch of homage. Here's the second branch. I make offerings, both actual and imagined, such as things of flowers, incense, lamp, food, music, and so else. I beseech the holy assemblage to accept these offerings. So that's the second of the branches, which is offering. First one is homage. Second one is offering. Now we're going to move on to the next one. From beginningless time until now, I repent all the 10 unvirtuous actions, the 5 actions of immediate consequence, and all other negative actions I've committed when influenced by mental affliction. The third branch is confession. So once again, homage is the first one, offering is the second one, and confession is the third one. How will we ever make improvements in our life if we don't acknowledge who we have been and move forward from there? Next branch, I rejoice in the merit of whatever virtue Shravakas, Prechika, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and ordinary people have gathered throughout the 3 times. So this is we won't try to unpack all of these words today, unfortunately, but the Shravakas and Prechika Buddhas are hots. They have achieved the state of nirvana. Bodhisattvas have attained Buddhahood. And ordinary beings, that's us. So this is the next branch, the branch of rejoicing in the merit that others have accumulated. In other words, rejoicing in the virtue that others do. Some people tell me, I feel bad I couldn't attend this or that program, or I feel bad I couldn't attend this or that retreat. When Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was asked about this, he said, well, don't feel bad. He said, rejoice in their merit, rejoice in their virtue, rejoice in what they're doing. He says, and you'll get the same merit. I'm going to keep that in mind. He said, why feel jealous when you can rejoice in their merit and get the same merit? Here's the next of the branches of offering. I think we're on the 5th one now. I pray that the wheel of Dharma be turned in the form of greater and lesser vehicles for as many different aptitudes as are present in the motivation of all sentient beings. So this is the 5th one, asking for the wheel of Dharma to be turned, asking for the teachers to teach. Here's the 6th. I beseech the Buddhas not to pass into nirvana, but until samsara is emptied, to look with great compassion on sentient beings who flounder in this ocean of frustration and sorrow. Asking the Buddhas not to pass away is the 6th of the 7 branches. And the final one, may whatever merit I have accumulated become a seed for the enlightenment of all beings. On reaching enlightenment myself, may I develop without delay the quality of a savior of beings. This is the 7th, is dedication. I dedicate this, whatever merit I accumulated, may it become the seed for enlightenment. In other words, dedicate the merit. So this formula called the 7 branches of offering, each one of them counteracts a type of mental affliction. The homage counteracts pride. The offering counteracts greed. The repentance counteracts anger. The rejoicing counteracts jealousy. Praying for the Dharma, wheel of Dharma to be turned counteracts ignorance. and asking the Buddhas to remain in the world. I like the explanation. It counteracts the view of permanence, thinking that things will always be. It counteracts the view of permanence. And then dedication basically is the consummation of it all. And it brings about enlightenment. So that's just a little about how powerful this 7-branch prayer is. And it is so powerful. There are 2 of them in the Green Tara Sadhana. Remember, the Mandala Ritual, the essence of the 2 accumulations, lots of mandalas, lots of offering. So we're going to bring Tara into our presence and we're going to offer. And so this is the first of the 7 branches that we will say in her presence. Next, there's a consecration of the offerings, because on our shrine, there will be offerings. And so we have to bless them and purify them. And so we bless them, purify them with mantras. Om Benza Amrita Kundrali, Hana Hana Hompe. So Amrita Kundrali is the name of a bodhisattva whose aspect is fierce, but whose heart is compassionate and dispels negativities. And so it's blessed with that mantra. And then next we say Om Swabhava Shuddha, Sarvadharma Swabhava Shuddha Hom. So the offerings are purified with the Amrita Kundrali mantra. And then we say Om Swabhava Shuddha, Sarvadharma Swabhava Shuddha Hom. This mantra, even though it's a tongue twister, this Om Swabhava Shuddha, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said, when you hear this mantra, know that even though the Sanskrit words are hard to understand, he said, when you hear it, the meaning of it is all things are empty and in essence, and so am I. He said, it's a reminder for you to reflect on your Buddha nature and how perfect it is, and how all things are empty of limitation. He says it's not a magic wand, it's not a magic formula that somehow turns everything into emptiness, but it's a reminder that the nature of all things is emptiness. And it's usually said in longer sadhanas before a visualization is developed. And so now, having blessed the offerings and reminded ourselves of the empty nature of all things, we're going to now visualize the environment, this world. Remember, the center and surrounding. We are at the center and the surrounding is the environment. So the environment becomes the realm of Lotus design. The realm of Lotus design is the name of Tara's pure realm. And it's beautiful. And in this beautiful realm, we make offerings. And so then we will offer the offering bowls that are on our shrine that we've just blessed. And we will actually say the mantra and do the mudras that go with each of these offerings. Argam is water for drinking. Padyam is water for washing. Pupe is flowers. Dupe is incense. And you can see the words right beneath here. Water for the mouth, that's argam. Water for the feet, that's padyam. Pupe, that's flowers. Dupe, that's incense. Aloke, that's light. Gende, that's perfume. Newade, that's food. And Shabda, music. Ahom, these are offering mantras. And then after this, we can, if we have a bell, we can hold the vajra in our hand and play the bell as our music offering. And so you see, we've done a lot of offering already, right? We imagine that Tara's in front of us. Then we take refuge and engender Bodhichitta. And then immediately we jump into the first 7-branch prayer. After we do a 7-branch prayer, then we dissolve everything into emptiness and visualize that we're in Tara's realm. So, and the offerings continue. Then the homage and offerings first to the 3 jewels in general. all the gurus, victors, and their children, 10 directions 4 times, form an assembly in the sky in front. So now we think that we're in the presence of all Buddhas. You who are the leader of all sentient beings, the destroyer of all maras and obstacles, all things are understood by you, conqueror. We request that you approach this place together with your retinue, inviting the 3 jewels to be present. And look, surprise, another offering, another 7 branch prayer. See, this is what is so valuable about this practice, is that it gives us the opportunity to offer first to Tara, then to all the awakened ones. And so those of you who are familiar with Tibetan chanting will recognize Jine Sudak, which is the first Tibetan words of this. Sometimes Tibetans don't have names for prayers. They call their prayers by the first line. They say, you know, not the offering prayer from Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way of life. They won't say that. They'll say, you know, Jine Sudak. And so that's this version of the 7 branch prayer. Those of you who are familiar with the king of aspiration prayers, which is excerpted from Shantideva's masterwork, the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, will recognize this particular version of the 7 branch prayer. It's extremely long, so we're not going to go through that one for the sake of time. But if you go through it, you will see all of the 7 branches that we talked about with the short prayer. They're all there. There's, you know, confession. There's the rejoicing. There's the praying for them not to pass away. And then there's the dedication and so on. That took up several pages, as you see. It's a longer version of the 7 branch prayer. We did a short one, now we did a long one. And guess what? More offerings. When you see the word Om Ahung in this sadhana, it's a cue. And the cue is we are going to offer the entire universe, the mandala of the universe, when we see these words Om Ahung in this sadhana. In other sadhanas, that has different connotations. But in this one, it says, mandala offering coming up. And here's the first of the mandala offerings we're going to make. We're going to make, I think, 3 or 4 in this sadhana. Here's the first one. Om Ahung, I continually and respectfully offer to the 3 jewels, the 3 roots, the ocean of Dharma protectors, and the gods of wealth, all the bodies, possessions, and virtues of myself and limitless sentient beings, together with the 4 continents, the supreme mountain, the sun and the moon, and the inconceivable wealth of gods and humans, continually emanated as vast clouds of Samantabhadra offerings. I have to stop here for a second and say there are 2 Samantabhadras, and it confuses us. I mean, we're English speakers. We want each word to have one meaning, to mean one thing. But in Tibetan Buddhism, there is a Bodhisattva Samantabhadra and a Buddha Samantabhadra. The Buddha Samantabhadra is the Primordial Buddha, as was taught by Guru Rinpoche in the Nyingma teachings. Those of you who are a part of our tradition will know that in the Kagyu teachings, the Primordial Buddha is named Vajradhara or Dorje Chang. But let's go back to Samantabhadra's offerings. This refers to the, whenever you see the word Samantabhadra and offering in the same phrase, you'll know they're talking about the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, who was well known for being able to emanate clouds and clouds and clouds of offerings to the Buddhas. So Samantabhadra offerings means a lot of really, really nice offerings. That's what it means. So now we've offered the 4 continents, the supreme mountain, the sun, and the moon. In other words, this whole world that we are part of. They use the ideal universe as was described in Hinduism: central mountain, 4 continents, sun, moon, oceans. Somebody said to Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, I live in America and we're scientific. We don't really believe in this ancient Hindu universe. Could I just offer galaxies instead? And he said, yes, you can, but you really should visualize this one. There's a lot of merit in it, he said. And there will not be enough time for us to both go through the entire sadhana and for me to teach the mudra. So that will be part of the deep dive Tara review that we will do. But safe to say that we learn how to do the offering mudra, and that is where we will offer it for the first time when we see this Om Ahom. And then we actually offer it with these words: Om, Guru, meaning teacher; Dewa Dakini, the idea is the Dakini of bliss; Sarva Ratna, meaning all of you jewel; Mandala, Pudza, meaning offer; Mega Ahom. I love Tibetan texts. First, they tell you what you're going to do, and then they tell you what you just did. So here he says, with that, offer a mandala. Okay, we got it. Now, guess what? Another offering. This one will be an aspiration prayer. Buddhas, Dharma protectors, and so on, gods of wealth, and so on. Your compassion and activity are most excellent. Your refuges and protectors of beings. You're the embodiment of wisdom and kindness. I pay homage to you from my heart, and I go to you for refuge. I offer you my body and possessions. I pray that you will continually protect me and limitless beings with your compassion. Engulf us with splendor, meaning bless us, so sickness and harm may be pacified, so vitality and merit may flourish, and all of our wishes without exception be fulfilled in accordance with the Dharma. So look at what we've done so far. Tara is in front of us. At the very beginning, we take refuge in her. After that, we recite a 7-branch prayer. After that, we make offerings. After that, we do another 7-branch prayer. And after that, we offer the mandala. So with that, you can see how many offerings have been made already. And it says, with that, request the fulfillment of your wishes. Then presenting offerings 3 times to Jetsunma. Jetsunma means the holy Tara. Jetsunma means the holy one who is a female. And in particular, the recitation of the Tantra of Praise. I want to mention here the Tantra of Praise. Those of you who are familiar with the Tara liturgy will know that in the center of that liturgy is multiple recitations of the praise to the 21 forms of Tara. So the praise to the 21 forms of Tara are like the diamond at the center of a brooch. And all of the rest of this are like the filigree. All of these other prayers and offerings are like the filigree around that diamond at the center. We recite the 21 praises of Tara a total of 11 times. Uneven numbers are said to be auspicious in Tibetan Buddhism. Even numbers imply completion. So an uneven number is a better way to go from their point of view. It indicates more will come. So now it's almost like we're entering into a different zone. We're entering into a different phase of this sadhana. We're entering into the center of this sadhana, where the 3 mandala offerings are made and the 3 recitations of the Tantra of Praise are done. So before I go on, I'd like to see if anybody, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and see if anyone has questions about what we've talked about so far, about the sadhana, the practices, and so on. That's a lot. 7 branches. You will learn about the 7 branches many times. Yes, you go ahead and ask.
Slow on the mute and unmute. So I guess I'm not familiar with this. What requesting fulfillment of your wishes? Is this where you pray and ask for things?
Yes, it is. Because you ask for things because
that's a Western idea. I don't know.
Yeah, they're here. They're here. So you may as well ask them.
Okay.
Here's what Khenpo Rinpoche said about this, because I asked him what the difference is, what he felt the differences between Christian prayer and Buddhist prayer were. And he said, first of all, I don't understand Christian prayer 100%, so I could be wrong. He said, but the way I understand it, he says, in Christian prayer, you're asking a being, a great being, who you have never been like, and who could, you could never become like them, who is never like you, and who you could never be like, a supreme being who is never like you and who you could never become like. And you're asking them to basically adjust reality for you and give you things. Okay. And he said, on the other hand, he said, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are beings who once were just like you. And now they want nothing more than for you to become like them. And you're asking them ultimately to help you on the path to enlightenment. Ultimately, that's what you're asking. But relatively, he said, it's not wrong to ask them to help you get through your fears and to have good conditions for practice. It's not, and it's not necessarily that they will grant you that boon, but that by actually praying to them and asking for that, you are accumulating virtue because you're turning your mind toward them with homage. And you see, if you have the karma to have those things, you are accumulating merit toward them happening. Does that make sense? You're sort of watering. One Buddhist nun said, when you pray to the Buddhas, you're watering the seeds of your good karma, coaxing them to fruition, which I thought was a really, because the Buddhas can't change reality for you unless your karma permits it. Okay. Does that make sense?
That's very different than praying to a God who's going to do something for you.
Exactly. Well, everybody's heard the famous joke about the man who prays to God to win the lottery and he never wins, and God appears to him and he says, hey, God, why have I never won the lottery? And God's answer to him was, help me out, buy a ticket. Right? So that's the punchline.
Right.
Okay, help me out, buy a ticket. Well, there's a Buddhist version of this joke, believe it or not. There is a Buddhist version of this joke. And I'll try to tell it really quick. And that is, a man prayed to the Bodhisattva of wealth, Namse. Oh, Namse, help me be wealthy. Oh, Namse, help me be wealthy. Well, and he never gets wealthy. And so Namse eventually appears to him and he says, hey, look, I got a bone to pick with you. I've been praying to you for years and you've never made me wealthy. And then Namse gives him the same answer. Help me out. He says, I'm a bodhisattva and I can see all of your past lives. And in none of your past lives were you ever generous to anyone. You have not created the cause for wealth. So go do that. And then I can help you. Okay. So to me, those, even though it's a funny story, it illustrates the difference between these two types of prayer, if that helps. Because anytime we are praying to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and honoring them and paying homage and making offerings and all of that, our mind is in a specific space. We're holding our mind in a particular way of devotion, love, and so on. And that in itself helps to urge our positive karmic seeds to fruition and slowly reduces the, what's the right word? Reduces the power and effectiveness of our negative karmic seeds. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche told us one time, he said, between the time you take refuge and the time you achieve enlightenment, he said, there's a bunch of karma in between those two and you got to clear it up. He says it will either be cleared up by doing your practice, which will purify it. Because he said, you put the karma there, you can purify it. You put it there so you can remove it through your practice. He said, or you're going to experience the consequences. But if we pray, when we experience those consequences, it will be a different experience than if we don't. So there's causes and there's conditions. Causes are the karma, conditions are the conditions in which that karma comes to fruition. And this is where the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can assist. Like, for example, I had a relative who had cancer, terrible cancer, stage 4 cancer. But yet she had the good karma to meet a person who I later call an angel doctor who cured her. So she had the negative karma to have that cancer, but she had the conditions to meet a physician who could cure her. It's amazing. So thank you for asking about that. I mean, we could go down a whole rabbit hole on that, but I appreciate you asking. Other questions? Yeah, thank you. Other questions that people might have? Okay. I like I say, I could do a whole thing on Buddhist prayer. Khenpo Rinpoche gave me a really nice interview one time when I was asked to give a presentation on Buddhist prayer to the folks in Hartford, Connecticut. And you can find that online as the as the workshop entitled Prayer, Compassion, and Devotion. I'll see if I can't get a way to link it to my my website. Okay, here we go. So now, remember, we're entering the central zone of the Tara sadhana, the central zone of the 3 offerings of the mandala, 3 offerings of the shrine bowls, and 3 offerings of the Tantra of praise. Okay, so now we're in the center of that. Complete in an instant of recollection, I appear as Tara. So now, before she was in front of us, and now we are Tara. And in my heart, above a moon disk, is a green letter Tom, which is here. So I'm really glad I'm recording this, because then people can look at the recording later and see where the letter Tom is. Rinpoche said, if you can't see Tibetan letters, don't worry. He said, just see a small sphere of green light hovering above that light-made moon disk. And by the way, as Tara, you look like Tara, but your body's completely made of light and empty inside, insubstantial. In your heart is this, because you're insubstantial and there's no sinews or organs or anything like that. In the center of your body is this moon disk with a Tom on top of it. And innumerable light rays are projected from that. The 21 emanations of Tara and the oceans of the 3 jewels billowing like clouds assemble in the sky in front. So now we are Tara, and light rays come from our heart, inviting the real Tara, along with her emanations, and all enlightened beings are now assembled in front of us in the sky. And now we, having visualized her, we recite a formal invitation. I mean, they're already here, but but we're inviting them. The unborn luminous expanse of the Dharmakaya, meaning the perfection of wisdom, dawns as the unceasing wisdom body of Arya Tara. Arya means high or exalted. The net of magical illusion that tames everyone. I love it that relative appearances have the power to bring us to ultimate understanding. So we see Tara relatively as a woman, and that woman that she is, made of light, is the net of magical illusion that tames everyone. I just love that. Thank you, Tara. Come here, Arya Tara. I request, conqueror. She's conquered all of the mental afflictions and ignorance. That you remain here for as long as I present offerings to you, meaning hang around, please, out of your kindness to me and all beings, and through your miraculous power. Pema Kamalaya Tam. When you see the words Pema Kamalaya Tam, you're basically saying, sit on this lotus seat. Sit on this lotus seat. And you're asking for the real Tara to invest the visualized Tara with her power. Because we visualize a Tara, but we might think, oh, it's not really Tara. But we ask for her to be present in reality. Now, after we've asked her to be seated, it's typical once a guest has been seated in your home that you make offerings to them, give them a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or something. Well, instead of that, once we've seated Tara and her retinue, now we're going to start making offerings. Each one of these 3 sections will be pretty much identical. Om ngojoryi le jungwai kuntuzang po chu tringi. Here's Samantabhadra again. Samantabhadra's offerings, the brand name of beautiful and plentiful offerings. I fill the Dharma Dhatu, meaning the entirety of space, with Samantabhadra's offering actually present, arising from the mind, offer this Tara and her retinue. And then Om Arya means high or exalted Tara, Sapariwara, that means you and all who are with you. I offer you benza or indestructible argam, padyam, pupe, dupe, aloke, gende, nevadi, shapta, tratitsa, soha. So an offering in this way. And that's all of those offerings from our shrine. So now, having offered the offerings on the shrine, now recognize what comes next as a mandala, because it starts with those words, Om Ahong. So now you see Om Ahong, you know to grab your mala and to place it in your hand if you're going to do the mudra. And if you don't know the mudra, just place it in your open hand and place the other on top and imagine that you're offering all of the universe to Tara. Om Ahong, I offer to the embodiments of compassion of the three realms, the glory and richness of the environment and its continents, my body, possession, and virtues. I pray you will accept these and engulf us with your splendor. Yeshe Jamso, who the Canadian translator who did this translation, went through a period where he, instead of using the word bless us, he said engulf us with your splendor, because that's really kind of what we're asking Tara to do, is to be in her presence and to be blessed by her splendor. So there's a mandala offering, right? And then it says you recite the Tantra of the King of Praises, the 21 homages 2 times. And so if you look at it this way, first we offer in this little central section where we're making the 3 sets of offerings, we offer the things on the shrine. Then we offer a mandala, and then we offer the praise. And that's why these 3 sections are virtually identical. We do 3 of them in succession and they're all the same. Well, pretty much. The 21 praises of Tara are here in Tibetan, followed by the transliteration, followed by the English. I wish I had time to go through these. I don't. But again, when we do the deep dive for Tara, we'll go through all of them. This is praising each of the 21 forms of Tara. And it mentions parts of her mantra. Here's to Tara, here's Hong, Soha, Om, because the mantra Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture Soha is the mantra of Tara. And so each of the, not each of the Taras, but some of the verses that praise Tara use and refer to part of her mantra. Having recited the 21 praises 2 times, we then return to the structure of Om, meaning we offer all of the offerings on our shrine again. And by the way, if you want to be fancy about this, you can put like little drips of water in your water bowls before you offer them the 2nd time and the 3rd time. It's very sweet. And you'll see us do that when we do the congregate practice, when we're all together. And again, Argam Pajam Pupe Dupe Aloke Gende Nevade Shapta, just like before. And then you see the magic phrase, Om Ahong. That's your cue that it's time for a mandala offering. So then we make our second of 4 mandala offerings. There's one at the beginning and then these 3. We end this one with the mantra Om Sarva Tathagata Ratna Mandala Prutsaho. And now this 2nd time through, the first time through, we've just recited the praises as a prayer to Tara. We're just praying to her the first time that we do those recitations. Now, when we do the 21 homages 3 times, the practice gives us a visualization. While we're reciting it for the 2nd time, we see Tara's right hand in the mudra of supreme generosity. It becomes the mudra of giving protection, which is this, where the hand is downward. It's placed downward. It's still at her knee, but the hand is downward now. And underneath her hand, you can imagine all to be protected are placed under this and assured protection from all dangers. You can imagine that light comes from her hand, blessing you and others. And he says, imagining that protection, recite the 21 homages 3 times. And here we are again, 21 praises, Tibetan, transliteration, and English. And then And then remember what we did before, that the first two things we did, the first two sections of this inner sanctum of the practice. We again, Om, Ngojiryi Lejeng Wai. I fill the Dharma Dhatu with clouds of Samantabhadra's offerings. In other words, we offer these again. We offer our shrine bowls again. And Argam Bhadyam Pupe Dupe Aloke Gende Nevade Shapta, and so on. Afterward, once again, you see the magic words, Om Ahong. That means it's time to get your mala out and offer your third mandala. So are you beginning to see the pattern? This is why I wanted to walk through the text in this way, so that you could see the pattern in the text itself. The text itself gives you the pattern. Offering the offerings on your shrine, the mandala, and then the praises. Those three things offered 3 times. Those 3 things offered 3 times. So here we go. Mandala offering Om Ahong, ending with the Om Sarva Tata Gata Ratna Mandala Pujzaho. Now we're going to get ready to recite the praises of Tara again, but this time we're going to recite them 7 times. The first of these 3 sections, we prayed to Tara. Second of the 3 sections, we asked for her protection. And now we're asking for her to bless us, that we become like her. I pray that you will accept these. Oh, and so from her body, a stream of ambrosia descends and entering me and all those to be protected through the tops of our heads. So before, she was shining light on us from her hand. Now from her body, a stream of ambrosia descends and it enters into me and all those to be protected, coming into us through the tops of our heads. So you can see streams of light that break apart and become discrete little streams going into the heads of all beings who need protection. It fills our whole bodies. Remember, we are visualizing ourselves as Tara here. And so it fills our whole body as Tara, this light. And with that, we imagine that while we are reciting the praises of Tara 7 times. Now, you might say, here's the prayer again, Tibetan, transliteration, and English. You may say, it is so hard to visualize while we are reciting. And I am sorry about that. But by orienting you to the sadhana and showing you the pieces of it, I'm hoping that over time, you might take on the practice or the training of trying to recite the 21 praises every day once as part of your practice at home, every day once. And by doing it every day once, somewhere between 6 months to a year, you will have it partially committed to memory in Tibetan. And if you also recite it in English, you will, at the same time, you'll have it partially committed to memory. And in that way, when you recite, the recitation will be sort of on automatic, and then you can do the visualization. But if that's not possible for you, you can just imagine each time that you recite the praises that you're praying to Tara and requesting her blessing. At the very least, you're asking for her blessings over and over and over again. After reciting the praises 7 times, we recite the final verses after the praises, talking about the benefits of reciting the praise. It's almost like the advertising section where it says, anyone who has genuine respect for the goddess, Tara, and recites this clearly, recollecting it at dawn upon awakening and at dusk, will receive protection from all dangers. All their harmful actions will be fully pacified. All their bad migrations, meaning rebirths, will be conquered. They will quickly attain empowerment by 70 million victors. Victors means Buddhas. I'm not going to go through all of these, but it talks about counteracting poison, Sufferings of affliction by obstacle makers, duns, contagion and poison. And then it says if this is recited twice, 3 times, and 7 times, those wishing children will obtain children, wishing wealth will obtain wealth, and so forth. May it be so. So even though Tara's ultimate wish for us is to attain awakening, we are accumulating merit toward all of those good things by saying her praises over and over and over again. Because of time, I'm going to go through this section rather quickly. There's also a Torma offering. Okay, we have not had enough offerings yet, so there's more. But wait, there's more. In the old days, when we couldn't make Tormas, we didn't know how, we offered a cookie. We put a cookie on the shrine that was specially for her. We bless it with our friend Amrita Kundrali mantra, and we use the Om Svabhava Shuddha, Sarvadharma Svabhava Shuddha Home mantra to say, thus cleansing and purifying all things into emptiness. And then from emptiness, from a syllable Om, arises a precious vessel. Inside its vastness, from the 3 syllables, Om, Ah, Hung, arise the Torma offering, undefiled wisdom ambrosia. And so we say Om, Ah, Hung 3 times as an offering. Then we offer it to Tara herself. Idam, meaning this, Belinkta, Torma, Kaka, Kai, Kai, enjoy and eat. Then we offer to all the 20 Taras and the enlightened beings that surround Tara. Omakaro Mukam Sarvadamanam. Mukam means like to you. It literally means to your face, but I mean literally to you, all of you. We offer this. And then we ask for a blessing. This, again, Elizabeth, to your question, this is fulfillment of wishes, meaning Dharma wishes. Consider this sacred Torma of offering and generosity with great wisdom and accept it with great pleasure. I pray that you will bestow all cities. Cities means like powers or accomplishments. There are relative cities, which are like wealth and comfort, and ultimate cities, which is awakening. And then, guess what? We have not yet offered enough. So here we are again. Argampadyam, Pupe Dupe, Aloke Gende Nevade Shapta, Tratitsa Soha. And now, as if we haven't offered enough, we're going to offer prayers of homage and praise to Tara. That's next. Oh, and that wasn't enough. We're going to offer a second prayer of homage and praise to Tara. Okay. That wasn't enough. And then, whew, that's a lot of praises, a lot of offerings, a lot of supplications. And now we're ready to recite Tara's mantra. It says, with that, requesting especially the fulfillment of your wishes and appealing to her commitment. Her commitment is to benefit beings. The frontal visualization of Tara, she's in front of us. Remember, we're Tara, she's Tara in front. She faces us and we face her. She melts into light and dissolves into me, engulfed with her splendor. And we are undifferentiated. I have become Aryatara, appearance with no nature. So for that, we accept the ultimate blessing from Tara. By the way, it looks like I'm going to run over no more than 10 minutes. I do apologize. It does look like I'm going to run over about 5 minutes, possibly 10. So, but I promise you I'll be finished by 10 minutes past the hour. So engulfed with her splendor, we are undifferentiated. I have become Aryatara, appearance with no nature. Remember the quotation I gave you from the Dalai Lama, who said, if we try to meditate on the nature of our mind as emptiness and luminosity, that's really hard to conceive. But it's easy to conceive that I am made of light and empty inside. And so with this symbolic blessing, she dissolves into me, and I think I am now undifferentiated from Tara. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche says, we may think this is impossible, but he said there is a logical basis to it. He said, the ultimate nature of Tara is emptiness and luminosity and wisdom. And the basic nature of ourselves is emptiness, luminosity, wisdom. her basic nature and our basic nature are the same. And so he said, she dissolves into us completely like water being poured into water. It's undifferentiated like that. And while we are resting in this state of meditation, meditating that we are one with Tara, we recite her mantra, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. And we recite this mantra, meditating on our being undifferentiated from Tara. Now, the practice ends with purification. In case we've made any selfish mistakes, like thinking, ooh, I'm going to do this practice, I'm going to get stuff, I'm going to get blessings, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, I'm special. If we have any negative thoughts that happen while we're reciting mantra or reciting the puja, we got to make amends. So this is how we make amends, by reciting the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva. And I love it the way we do it in Columbus. I love that, Marilyn, that melody. Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya. Now I'm going to mess it up. Benza Sato Tena Pa Tita Dridu Me Bawa Suto Kayo Me Bawa Supo Kayo Me Bawa Anuraktu Me Bawa Sarva Siddhi Mentrayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsa Me Sitam Shriya Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagawan Sarva Tata Gata Benza Mame Munsa Benzi Bawa Maha Samaya Sato A. So even if all you can do is play a recording of the mantra being recited, and try to keep up and go along with it. Lama Karma made a slow one. I'll see if I can add that to the group of things I share with you. He doesn't use the melody, but the melody is helpful. You can recite that one time, more if you have time, but think that by reciting this mantra that the Buddha Vajrasattva said, when people say my name, Benza Sato, Vajrasattva, when they say my name, may all of their negativities be purified. And that's a whole nother teaching about the 4 powers of confession and how through the 4 powers of confession, we purify our karma. Whole nother teaching. We'll have to cover that at some point in the future. But these mantras are given to us as a remedy for our wrongdoing and so on. And so we can all learn about that as time goes along. Now, look here. We say to Tara, I request that you forgive whatever defects there are and what I have done here. Obviously, our teachers understand that we have perfectionism problems and that we might need to cut ourselves some slack. And so we ask that the deities forgive whatever defects in what we have done in our sadhanas, whatever has been incomplete, imperfect, and whatever I have been unable to do. And then we skip this next section because he provided, Chögyal Déchen Lingpa provided a section where we could dissolve the visualization into our supports. The word support means the statues or the paintings of Tara that we might have in front of us and use for our devotion. We actually asked Tara to go back to her realm in this one, and then we can box them up and go. That's when we were nomads living in tents, and we had to make a shrine, pray in front of it, and then disassemble the shrine and pack up and keep going. So a special prayer was added for that reason. We do not recite that one. But the one we mainly recite is this one. Om Dirni Tendang Len Shikdu Korwa Sidu Sugnekyan. For the duration of samsara, please abide together with this support. Bestow health, longevity, prosperity, and all that is excellent and supreme. Om Sutra Tiktra Benzai Soha. So when you see Marilyn or others tossing rice toward their images of Tara when they say this, it means may you remain with this statue. May you remain with this painting. May Tara be present in this place. And Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said, this was part of what I was saying earlier when he said, deities are real. They're not archetypes. They're not symbols. They're real. And he said, and when you call them, they come. And when you ask them to remain, they remain. He said, and then of course, you know, Khenpo Rinpoche, he would give funny examples. He said, why do you think that holy people are holy people? And why do you think that holy places are holy places? They are holy because the beings have invited the deities to be present there again and again and again and again. And he said they remain. And this is what brings blessing to people and places. So we're asking her not just to be undifferentiated from the objects, but from us too. And after asking for that, we then dissolve the visualization. We dissolve the Tara, and we dissolve ourselves as Tara, because the front Tara has already dissolved into us. And then we as Tara dissolve from the top to the middle and the bottom to the middle into the small Tom letter in our heart, or the small sphere of green light. And then that dissolves into utter emptiness. And as we rest in utter emptiness, it says, I rest in the natural state, the Dharma Dhatu, meaning the Dharma expanse, the expanse of awakening. And I love it. In this way, foster the view of the nature of your mind. And you will probably enter into a short meditation, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds of a peaceful, quiet meditation. But then after that, you'll say, what time is it? Where am I? What am I doing? And then you imagine that you are Tara again. You revisualize yourself as Tara, and the whole realm is Lotus design, and so on. After this, we start dedicating the virtue. And so, Gewadi Nir Dudak, Pagma Droma Drubjurne. So through this virtue, may I quickly accomplish Aryatara and establish all beings without exception in that state. And then after dedicating the merit, we say a prayer of auspiciousness, or Tashi. You, Tara, bestow without obstruction the fulfillment of all wishes, like a wish-fulfilling gem or an excellent vase. May there be the auspiciousness of the constant compassion of Jetsun Matara, the victors and their children. Proclaim auspiciousness with tossing flowers and playing music and so on. And that concludes the main body of the Tara Puja as we do it. But as you know, there's always more. So there are some traditional prayers of praise to Tara and her qualities. Because we're short on time, I won't go through them here, but there are two. One begins Jetsun Chomdende, compassionate, victorious Tara. And so that's one. Here's the second one. Begins with the phrase Jal Yum Drolma. Jal Yum, all victorious. Drolma, Tara. Jal Yum, oh, I'm sorry, it's mother of the victors, my mistake. Jal is victorious, Yum is the mother. And that's the conclusion of the practice. Thank you for letting me hold you after school for a few minutes so that we could complete. And we still have about 5 minutes if anybody has additional things they'd like to talk about. Things they're curious about. The purpose of today's overview was to orient you to the puja, to orient you to the sadhana text, to let you know who Tara was, a little of her history, why she's so special, why we ask for her blessings, and what a mantra practice is for, how it helps us transform our own ideas of body, speech, and mind, and how it helps us to accumulate merit and wisdom. That's why the text is called the essence of the two accumulations, because the accumulations are all of those offerings around the central diamond, if you will, of this piece of jewelry, the central diamond of the 21 praises and the 3 mandalas and the 3 shrine offerings. Around this, this particular practice, this structure helps us to accumulate merit. But when we visualize ourselves, Tara, as dissolving into ourselves, and then we dissolving into emptiness, that's the accumulation of wisdom. And so in that moment, we have the opportunity to experience our mind as it is through the symbolism and the device of thinking that we are in the presence of Tara. Then she blesses us, we become her, and then we dissolve into emptiness. So that's a little bit about the practice, and I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have. Yes, Wolf.
Thank you so much for the entire lesson. I'm curious if one at home wishes to invoke Tara, is it necessary always to go through the entire ritual, whether doing it oneself or listening, or can you simply do the praises or use her mantra?
You know, yeah, there are short versions of this, and all of them dispense with all of the versions, the short versions of this practice dispense with the numerous prayers and offerings and stick right with the praise recitation. I would, if you are as a learner, as a person who is being introduced to the practice, I feel that it would be sufficient to recite a prayer of Refuge and Bodhichitta, you know, whether it's the Refuge and Bodhichitta that's in this practice, or whether it's a general Refuge and Bodhichitta, like the 4-line Refuge prayer that we recite at the beginning of Chenrezig. So that we start that with some kind of Refuge and Bodhichitta, and then you can recite the 21 praises. I think that it's a really good thing to recite the 21 praises daily, at least once in Tibetan, with a recording, and we'll try and find you one. And then in English, if you have time. Tibetan for sure, because the congregate group, we still practice in Tibetan right now. And so it'd be great if you could do that every day. And if you had time, you could also recite her mantra and ask for her blessing, and then dedicate the merit at the conclusion. Refuge and Bodhichitta, the 21 praises, some of her mantra, and then a dedication, I think would be a sufficient introductory level practice that a person could do. It would be great. I just found out last night from getting a message from Khenpo Urgyen Tenzin, the abbot of KTD Monastery, that he is allowing us to give reading transmissions via Zoom. And I'm super happy about that. So we will try to, we're going to work on we're having a program meeting very soon, and we'll try to see if we can't schedule some reading transmissions for these essential practices so that people can receive them and get extra blessings. So, but it's best to, when you're doing the practice of Tara, to have all 3 of the permission blessings that a tantric practice needs. The reading transmission for the text you're using, just having it read to you as a blessing. Second, the practical instructions on how to chant and how to visualize. But third is the empowerment. You have to receive the empowerment to do it as a daily practice at home. But for now, at an introductory level, Refuge, the praises, the mantra, and a dedication is sufficient. Yes, I saw you had a question.
Yes, I know when we do the praises, there's 2 tunes. There's one that Karmapa provided, and then there is the one that we do very rapidly. So as we're practicing the mantra, is there one that you would, or not the mantra, the praises, is there a tune that you recommend?
You know, I think that if you're, I hear that. And you know, I do it both ways. You know, one day you do it with the melody, and the next day you do it with the Om Jetsun Ma Pama Dromala Chatsalo Chatsal Dharmanyama Pamo, or whatever, you know. I love the Karmapa's melody. I really love it. But because it takes longer to chant, you might do fewer recitations, but for some people, the melody and the memorization of the words go together. It's like a helper, right? When you recite and have a melody together, it's a little more powerful. So I would leave it up to the individuals, because some people are like Jetsam up, I mean, they're into it, right? So, but the melody, I love that melody. And okay, now I've got a to-do list. I have my notebook. And I will write down what I'd like to provide for those of you who are in the class today. I want to give you a slightly slower 21 praises and a slightly slower sadhana, because I think these actually exist somewhere and I just have to find them. And then the other one is I have a recording of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche reciting the Vajrasattva mantra. And that's really sweet. And then I also have Lama Karma doing it slowly, which is another good thing to have, right? And then the Karmapa's melody for the praises, right? How's that? Oh, lots of recordings. But was that what you were thinking? The melody and so on. Marilyn, do you know another melody other than those two? I only know those two.
The only other thing would be just a straight chant, because sometimes Ed would have us do just at lightning, blistering, monastic speed. When I was learning.
I hear that.
I would recommend you do the traditional chant every day, and then you could add the Karmapa tune. But if you don't do the traditional chant every day, you will never learn to keep up.
I hear that.
I said it every day for 2 years when I was under Ed's instruction with Sewang.
I get it. Do you have a recording, a slow recording? Ah, darn it. Okay, well, we'll see if we
I
can't
would listen to your recording on lamakathy.net to get the tune, and then I would do it at my own pace, much slower.
Yeah. Those of you who study music know what a metronome is. So get your click track and then you just kind of go. Okay. Thank you for that. Other questions? I told you I'd let you go at 10 minutes past the hour, so I better start wrapping it up. But is there anybody else out there that has a question? Well, okay, then we will wrap it up. I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to. I'm just really appreciative of the opportunity that this class has given us today to talk about the Tara practice and to introduce you to the sadhana. I hope that this will inspire you to attend the Sunday Tara practice, which begins at what time, Marilyn? Oh, okay.
For now, it's 8:30.
8:30. Yeah, we may change. We may, right?
But when the building goes live, we're still going to do it by Zoom, but we're going to change it to earlier times so we can do all the repetitions. Right now, we're doing a shortened version.
Okay, awesome. So please avail yourself of that, and you can go read along in English. If it's too quick for you, you can just read along in English and be with them and do the mantras and recite the praises at your own speed. I think that's a really wonderful thing. That was my goal in doing the practice, and I'm so happy that I was able to go through the text and explain each part of it, because that way you can replay that part, and that will help you with understanding the parts of the sadhana. So it's time to dedicate the merit. Thank you for your sincerity and your attendance in our program today. I'm going to recite a short prayer of dedication, pulling together all of the merit from this time together, and all of the merit we've accumulated in the past, will accumulate in the future, and are accumulating now. Short prayer in English goes like this. Through this merit, may all achieve the omniscience of Buddhahood. May it defeat our common enemy, wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. from the ocean of samsara. May we free all beings. May we free all beings. May we free all beings. Okay, thanks everyone. We have people from everywhere here. So thank you very much for being here today. We'll be seeing you again soon. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. Thanks everyone.